Russ down at Aaron Fitness. I just want to talk to you today a little bit about recovery and why it's so important and what we call a deload week essentially, and why that's important for everybody that trains consistently, whether it be for fat loss, fitness gains, muscle building gains, or whether you're working with elite athletes. So I've drawn a graph up on the whiteboard here, and what this graph represents is a number of weeks along the bottom. So I've done it for 8 weeks, but we could do that for 6 months or even a year. And with the red line, that represents your sort of training output. So up here is a high training output, here's a low training output. So what tends to happen is you start off with an exercise program. Let's say it's someone who wants to lose weight and get fitter, and their output is at a given level at week 1. Okay? And as a transition, this is the way it should work. You can work really hard for 3 weeks and work consistently. And then the idea is then from week 3 to week 4 is you have like a deload week where you reduce the intensity a little bit. And during that period of reduced intensity, I would focus a little bit more on recovery, mobility, relaxation, and it just gives any injuries that you've picked up a bit of a chance to heal over. It also refreshes the mind, ready to go hard again into week 5. So then you kick off at week 5, so your training intensity is built, but then obviously it's going to drop for that deload week, and then along the deload week there it's going to be at a lower level. Then you kick off at week 5 and you are at a lower level than when you came into this deload week, but you build the intensity again then. And then when we drop it then down here at week 8, after another 4 weeks of training, you drop down, you have an easier week, you can pick it back up. And what we look at is over a period of time, it's this kind of gap that we're interested in. So it's the difference between the green line going across the bottom is kind of your baseline sort of starting output. So that's maybe, I don't know, let's just say this is a 5k run. That might be how fast you can do a 5k run. If you're a weightlifter, that might be what you can deadlift for a 5 rep max. You know, you can translate that into whatever activity you do. So that might be your starting off output. And then we can see that the gap above that is obviously a significant gap. Let's look at what happens if people don't do deload weeks and they don't take the recovery seriously. We might start off high, and after a few weeks, so we're building the same amount of intensity, but then after a few weeks, we can come all the way back down as we start to overtrain. And you can see this negative gap is obviously what we want to avoid, because this gap here is actually lower than your starting output, and that's where it's really important to make sure you're addressing these recovery strategies. So basically guys, you know, it is something that's used in elite sport, that's where I've picked it up from. But at the end of the day, that can be applied to you. One thing that I would say is, if you're not training consistently, I wouldn't try and follow anything like that, because if you're not making it to the gym sort of 3 days a week, consistently over a number of weeks and months, then you're almost like inadvertently putting yourself in a deload sort of 3 or 4 days as and when. So if you're somebody and work gets in the way and you're not getting to the gym for a full week, or you're regularly feeling a bit like down in the dumps and you don't get to the gym, then that is almost like by default you are creating a deload week. This is for people, this first graph that I drew, this deload week is for people that are training consistently week in, week out, and they've probably moved into that intermediate stage, so they've got more than 6 to 12 months training experience under the belt. Kind of beginners and things, they can get away with kind of building that intensity a little bit longer. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll speak to you soon.